Welcome to the Sedona Soul Sisters Show, down-to-earth discussions on metaphysics, paranormal, and spiritual topics.
The Sedona Soul Sisters are myself, Rosalyn Reynolds, and my business partner, Ivory Lanou. We are just kind of like hanging out, waiting for you to come visit us in Sedona, Arizona.
Yeah, we have no appointments, nothing. We just hang out here.
Our offices are here, and I think Sedona offers us a unique connection because of its metaphysical properties. So if you're coming in, here we are.
And we do hang out in between sessions. That is very true.
We do.
Today's topic is multi-dimensions. What are they? If you have questions or comments on today's topic, please put them into the show's chat room on Crowdcast, obviously, and we will answer live on the show. And you're welcome to also leave comments.
And I would like to apologize today for my Minnie Mouse voice. I had to go all the way to California to get laryngitis, but it seems to be abating today. So I hope you will give me a little leeway with that, because I didn't want to miss this.
No, this is a topic near and dear, right?
It is. And Ivory recently posted on our website a very interesting article about being a mystic. I think multidimensional and mystic kind of go together.
They do, and I don't think I would have ever realized I was a mystic if it wasn't for you, Roz, because I was telling you about these experiences I've been having for years. And like, I woke up, there's a pyramid in my room. And actually, I never went to sleep. I was wide awake. All these things, and Roz is like, I think you're a mystic. Well, she held it back for a while, and then she's like, I think you're a mystic.
Well, the thing about Ivory is, Ivory sort of is on her own voyage of discovery, as are we all. And she's evolving and seeing all kinds of things that she did as a child that she never realized what she was doing. So it's pretty cool, because as you discover this, I'm sure many of you out there can relate to this experience. You don't realize that your gifts are covering multiple areas. And really thinking about what we are able to do. I'm always telling people, we're not stuck here. We're not stuck in this dimension. People want to think that we are, but our spirit, our soul is not stuck in our body. And therein lies the kind of like key to mystic and multidimensional. You see this a lot now, multidimensional healer, multidimensional light worker. It's really about being open to the concept that we can cross out, we can see into multiple levels.
First, my angels told me that. And then I knew that. Remember recently I told you I had that experience at my sister's house. If you're watching this, Dee, yes, it was at your house, Christmas Eve, where I woke up and I was someplace else in this place in France that's got a lot of white carving on the ceiling, the walls, the molding is very elaborate and white. And I was in that space again, and I couldn't find the door. I wanted to go to the restroom. I couldn't even find the door to the hallway. And for about 40 minutes, I was in this other place in France, feeling around, and I was touching those walls, and I couldn't, where the door was supposed to be, it wasn't there. Finally, out of all this, I finally found the doorknob, and that's how I got back. And I thought, you know what? You had a good point there, Ross. She's like, now, Ivory, you better make sure to ask at night that the cord, the silver cord, stay connected to you, because I could end up just like staying there. And I know that's true. Like, I could decide to just cross into one of these other dimensions. I've been invited to go explore. I know you have as well.
And not necessarily cross back.
Yes, right.
So these are all things that for a lot of people are pretty scary, but really it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be a frightening experience. One thing that I remember when I was a child in elementary school and then starting into middle school was I would have these experiences, same thing, where I was in a completely different place. I would see them once I awakened. And that was kind of a mind-blowing experience like you're talking about, especially for a child, because I would awaken and I would think, where am I? I'm not in my room. Where am I? But it was never for me a frightening thing. And I think if we can kind of just accept the idea that we can do these astral travels, we can go into these multiple dimensions of time and space, and then we can return. But that silver cord is a really important part of this to me.
Ever since then, every night I say that because I never know when that's going to happen. I mean, I've gone through long periods of time where every night for months and months on end, it's not that I wake up and it's there. I'm not even asleep yet. And I realize that the surroundings around me are no longer my bedroom, or I can see little bits of my bedroom, but I'm more in another place. So I'm kind of in both at once. And that's the thing about multi-dimensions is they overlap. And
Right.
So, yes, you can be in more than one dimension at the same time. I've experienced that. I'm sure you have.
And the thing to remember, too, I think, that once you start to experience a little hesitation and a little fear, if you can just kind of stop yourself and call in your guides and your angels who are around you and ask them to be standing with you, to be always protecting you, surrounding you in light, but also guiding you through these different dimensional portals. And I personally spent a lot of time as a child where my mom would be saying, Roz, you're dizzy.
I love that.
Come back, Roz. So obviously my mother was looking at me and thinking, okay, she's gone.
And now I'm the one. I look at her, I'm like, all right, what are you getting? I see that look. I don't tell her she's getting dizzy unless I just want to be funny.
I think one thing that helps with this too is the realization that this is quantum physics. Like, you know, I'm not a brainiac or anything, but when you read some of the quantum physics analysis, it definitely fits that we could cross out of this dimensional field and be in other places in other times. There's a lot of really interesting on YouTube, which, you know, I entertain myself watching sometimes in the evening, where they show time traveling, where they show people, and these are on, you know, cameras that are placed around cities, people walking along, people riding a bike, and blip, they're gone. And I know that we can do amazing things with cameras, and we can create things that aren't there, but some of these are fascinating when you see the people just moving out of this dimensional field, vehicles crossing, people suddenly appearing in the middle of the street, people are driving. So it's really important to realize that, you know, your acceptance of that depends on your fear level. I don't really think because of our childhood, we don't have a lot of fear of that experience.
I really got afraid of, and I was thinking about it when you mentioned it earlier. It's not that anything that scary happened. I felt a little bit out of control, and I was extremely ill when it happened. So I was laying in bed wide awake in the afternoon, and I suddenly was in front of this, like a Taj Mahal looking Eastern palace, and there was a long body of water in front of it, and I was a long distance away. And then all of a sudden, something moved my body at tremendous speed till I was right in front of the big doors. My nose was almost in the door, and I screamed. And family was in the other room, and they come, what's going on? And it all went away. Now I'm kind of curious, like I know that was an invitation to walk through those doors, and I probably could have gotten some incredible information shared with me, and I blew it because I wasn't feeling good. But it's a running thing with me. They like to come, these things happen sometimes when I'm super ill and I don't have the energy to deal with it. But that did scare me. But when I'm looking back on it, I would have handled that differently.
Well, that brings up, my experience in 5th grade where we are all sitting there and we open our social studies book and I opened right to a picture of the Taj Mahal, and this was kind of like everybody was allowed to talk and we were all having this experience of whatever was being taught that day. And I blurted out, "Oh, I go there all the time. I fly there all the time." Yeah, everybody in the room turns around and looks at me like, "Say what?"
You might as well just rub giant bug eyes and a tail.
And the teacher just got this smirk on his face like, "Oh, really?"
Yes, actually, really.
So this was my 5th grade teacher who was used to me by this time. But I think we all have to kind of come to a balance point with realizing that, these are not terrifying experiences. In the case of you, where you were sick, that's a little more frightening. But the stuff that I remember happening like that when I was a kid, I just thought it was a great ride.
Yeah, nothing scary happened, I guess, unless it's just I was very ill and being propelled at great speed, and that startled me. And I screamed. I did. I help. But sometimes it makes me think about this too. Like sometimes it's not going to another country. Sometimes it's being in the same place you really were with the people you really were there with in this dimension. And I'm going to give you an example of this. This was years ago. My daughter was living in the Phoenix area, and her then boyfriend, they belonged to the Phoenix Zoo. They loved it. They went there a lot. So every time I visited, we'd go to the zoo year round. And we were there one time, and in the middle of our trip, we stopped at we went and saw all the animals, but I remember particularly going to this gorilla exhibit that you were looking down on the gorillas, and they had like a big playground set up for them. And I was thinking to myself, what would happen if I put my hands like this and send energy? Because this male gorilla was very agitated, and I thought, what will happen? So I sent it, and he stopped, and then he looked up at me, and he sat down, and he just was very quiet. And I thought, wow, that's incredible. And we went on, finished the rest of our time at the zoo. 5 or 6 years later, yes, years later, I mentioned this incident. It came up somehow about energy healing, the effect on animals, and I referred to that incident, and both my daughter and her then boyfriend looked at me like, what are you talking about? I'm like, when we were standing at no, I don't remember that. And her boyfriend's like, they haven't had gorillas there in 16 years or more. We didn't go to any gorillas, but everything else about that trip was correct, and they remembered everything, but not that middle part about the gorilla exhibit.
So obviously you were in a multi-dimensional field.
Yeah, in the middle of a trip to the zoo.
Of, an experience with your family and a trip to the zoo.
So I was at the same zoo with the same people, but they don't remember that segment of our visit. And I still do remember it extremely vividly. So sometimes I think those are the ones that are the most confusing, and we've talked about that.
Yeah, I agree. So if you are having these kind of experiences, most people think they're cracking up. They think they're losing it. But open your mind to the possibility, and open your heart to the possibility that you are experiencing these multidimensional transitions from one time, from one place to another. And I think it's really healthy to document those things.
I do. I'm a big proponent of journaling. And I think anything that you have a significant dream, you have a paranormal or supernatural event, including experiencing other dimensions, you put the day, the time, and exactly what you experienced. There's great benefit in that. One of the things I think is important, and I like to ask myself after one of these incidences, is why did that happen? and really tune into that and meditate on it. Why did that happen? Sometimes I think it's simply a flashback to a past life.
I agree, because the way that we think time is extremely linear. I mean, people, we have created this timeline, and it does follow the sun, and where we are as we're revolving around, and it's so confining if you're stuck in that, seconds, minutes, hours mindset. If you kind of open your mind to the possibilities that time moves in all kinds of directions, it moves into infinity. It shrinks down to the tiniest little moment. So just kind of open to that and realize that these multidimensional portals and openings that we go through, they're not stuck in any kind of time.
No. And I
they're
think
in their own field.
I have a part of me that's very scientific, and I think everything can be a scientific experiment. And my friends watching this are having a good laugh right now because they know it's true. So for me, the scientific experiment part of multi-dimensions is I challenge myself to interact with that dimension a little bit more. For a period of time, I don't remember any past life being in Egypt, but there was a long period of time where every night before I went to sleep, suddenly I'd be at the base of this pyramid and I'm on the ground and I can smell the dirt, and I'm looking through grass and I can feel a breeze on my face. But in this dimension, I'm laying in my bed on my side facing a dresser and a wall. But this pyramid is far higher than my wall and eclipses most of the room. So eventually when that happened, I challenged myself to stick my hand into it, and I could feel an energetic difference. And then it was touch the grass, and then the next thing I wanted to do was walk over to the pyramid, but I didn't have that vision anymore. So, you can try these things. That thing that happened Christmas Eve was kind of by accident, but I'm glad it did it because it let me walk in it for the first time and touch things.
And I think too, if again, we go back to the fear factor, if we can remove ourselves from any vestige of fear, mm-hmm. and just see this experience, there usually is a point or a place that you come to where you start to really connect with that dimensional field. It is either a past life thing or you're going forward. Frequently, I ask people, because I can feel it in their energy when I'm working with them, you must have a lot of deja vu. And that's totally when you are moving forward in time, you're already there. You're already in that forward space in time. So you have the experience, and then you're back where you are now. And then when you experience that, you think immediately, oh my gosh, I'm having deja vu. I did this before. Same concept, really.
It is.
It's not, it's not really, so to speak, rocket science. I mean, we can allow ourselves to transition across these multiple dimensions of time and space. And really, any type of work in a connecting with spirits or mediums or our angels, etc., that's all about multiple dimensions.
It is.
Where they're coming in and suddenly they're here.
And also what you were saying earlier about there's no time and time is not linear. Well, on the other side, there's no time. Spirit can be with multiple people at the same time. I've known that happened. And so why can't you be in multiple dimensions at the same time? I think you just have to get to that frequency where
Exactly.
You can cross right through. And sometimes I do think it is about connecting with a certain group of people or a race or a council who wants to talk to you, who wants to acknowledge your work or give you information to help you with your mission. Definitely I've had that counsel come to me and I know you've had things like that. Absolutely. So there's a lot of reasons why this happens.
The other thing that I think is interesting from the perspective of how we experience this is I don't really experience much in a dream state.
I don't need, I do, but not like this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, this is a real experience. I know it's real. I know I'm in that time. It's not anything related to dreams, hallucinations, anything of that nature.
Mm-mm.
These are real experiences that you can feel, sense. It's quite ironic. I have very little sense of smell in this lifetime from many years of taking, steroid nasal spray for allergies. But when I'm in these other dimensions, smells are just amazing. I'm so sensitive to them. And it's really kind of a wonderful thing, because when you don't have a sense of smell, it gets pretty boring. But these are all things that we can use to validate and verify that these are true experiences that we're having. They're not just, a dream.
No, and I know for me, like I said, it's in dreams I have precognitive events. I do see worldwide events, news, things that are coming up. But this is different. This is when I'm still awake. And so I want to point this out, that I get into a very deep meditative state before I go to sleep at night, because that's when I'm tuning in to my angels. I'm seeing who's coming through from the celestial realm and the ultra terrestrial realm to talk to me, to communicate with me. And so I'm in that state where I really am a very deep psychic state as well. So if you want to experience something like this, I think that it can really help you to get yourself so relaxed that you're not asleep. You can't let yourself go to sleep, but you are relaxing your vision. You're letting your mind go and letting yourself tune in on a psychic level, not your human body level.
And I think one thing you mentioned a couple minutes ago that I'd like to, bring up again is the concept of different frequencies. Because I know you and I both hear. We hear it inside of us, but we also hear with our ear when frequencies are shifting, when we're moving into different spaces, when we are encountering different beings, angels, guidance, whoever. The frequencies that are going on in our ears shift immediately. And
our angel ear.
Yeah. And so give that some thought, because a lot of people, start thinking, well, what's wrong with my ears? And then they start having these experiences, and they are many times at the simultaneous point where you're hearing it, you're feeling it, and you're seeing it, and you're experiencing it. So,
but then if you're already having this happen before you go to sleep, when you're in this awake but deep meditative state, prepare yourself for when it starts happening and you're not laying in bed. It's not at night. You're out about driving or in a restaurant or shopping, and suddenly you're in an overlapping dimension. Now that's where things get interesting.
And we go back to the concept of time. Like, I've had a couple of occasions where I completely lost a section of time. And there are a lot of people who say, oh, you've been abducted, or you've had this happen. Then you start to recall what was going on and what was your experience then. And it starts to fall into place that you had crossed into a different dimensional field. I mean, it sounds like, a crazy experience, but actually, for me, it's very grounding. Maybe that's because I did it all my life like you, but I think we have to be comfortable with our gifts and not tap into thinking that something really weird is happening, because it's not. Pretty intense.
I wonder what would happen if we're driving to work and we go into another dimension and we keep driving in that dimension.
That could get interesting.
That could. I would text you. I would.
I'll
be in late because I'm in another dimension. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen unless we will it. We want it to happen.
true. So all of these are things for you to explore and kind of get an idea of your specific gifts and abilities, your comfort level with these things. It's not always the easiest thing to get comfortable with, but once you start to roll with it and realize, it really did help me to read a little bit of physics, things that were said by some of the, names of physics. And I started thinking, whoa, I do that. So it was helpful.
Do you
really
think
helpful.
anyone can become a mystic? Can see other dimensions or experience them?
I think as people, especially in this time right now, the shift, the ascension, we're in this amazing time where people who thought they had absolutely no abilities are suddenly fast forwarding into a whole new realm of things. So I do think that we come here with gifts and abilities. The only limitation is how far we feel comfortable to go with them. And I do think everyone has the potential to develop their intuitive and psychic gifts. This is a sixth sense. I mean, we have it. Mystic is another step where you're able to let go of, trying to desperately hang on in the third dimension here and to our bodies. So yeah, I think the potential is there. But the number one factor has got to be passing on the other side of your fear. I mean, really.
Do you have a question?
3 minutes.
Okay. It's very interesting about all of this. I think that it's good for people to know about it because I know, like I said, after that Facebook post where I just wrote a little bit about this, several people contacted us offline to say, oh my gosh, I've been experiencing that my whole life. And I did not know what that was. And I did not understand that I was a mystic. And so I hope that this helps some people understand what's going on or what's coming for you, because things unfold as they're meant to. And our gifts definitely make themselves known as we go further into our journey, as we raise our frequency higher, and we're ready to experience this. So I don't know why some people experience it in childhood. I don't know why. I'd be guessing, but it's a wonderful thing. I had somebody ask me that the other day, if anybody can do this. I'm like, I don't really know. Let's talk about that on the show. So let's see what happens. If you've had some experiences like this, feel free to leave us a comment in the chat room. We'd love to hear about it. Tune in next week. Our new soul sister, Terry Ann Russell, will be joining us to talk about heart healing. And we hope that you have an enlightening week.
And thanks so much for watching the Sedona Soul Sisters show today. Again, our offices are in Sedona, Arizona. And we are pretty much planted here most of the time. So if you come to Sedona or you want to do online or phone work, please let us know. Go to our website and take a look, SedonaSoulSisters.com.